right? So when we're talking about using plant medicines to heal, that room gets dark. That room gets heavy. People start like shuddering, right? You ever gone in surgery without any anxiety? Who's here has had to have surgeries? Was there anxiety going into it? No?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of pain with it? Some pain with surgery? But you're getting better, right? You see, so that's the part of healing with plant medicine that gets skipped over by a lot of people. Is that the healing is a darkness, it's not a light. So when we're like, ooh, light beings, ignore them. Dark beings, the darkness, that's you're purging that out, right? And the only way you can get it out is you got to bring it to the surface. So we're talking anxiety, traumas, things that people have gone through in their lives come up. And when they come up, that stuff spills into the room. So you're sitting in a Maloka and you've got 15 people in there and that healing starts. There's where, whether or not you're with a real shaman, if you'll call him that, medicine man, whether you're with a real one or not, that's where you're going to find out. Not in the, okay, everybody happy and joyful and singing. It's when it's time for that healing to go on. When that grandmother and all those other spirits come into that room, it gets heavy. It gets dark. It gets creepy and eerie and cold and funky, right? And that you have to sit in that and hold that as long as you can, right? And that's where, people start losing it. It's right at that spot because it's like they don't know what to do with what's going on. There's confusion. There's all this stuff coming up, but it's just the trauma from your life coming up, right? So if someone's worth their salt holding a ceremony, they're going to know that, and they're not going to try to stop it prematurely. They're going to get that to really build to where everybody's like, and then you start the whistling, and out it comes. People just start puking into these buckets. And I'll tell you, it is black, like spent oil. I mean, everybody pukes the same thing. I know I've cleaned out many, many buckets. Black, this blackness, right? And they're purging their emotional body. Right? I mean, there's things that go on in this world that we're not really aware of as Americans or as a member of a society, but that we're well aware of on our own in our own personal lives, right? In our own private lives, we're aware of a lot more than what our society will accept, right? So you'll find, there's a lot of people who will come into ceremonies with a whole lot of what we call demons. That I know that word scares a lot of people. And it puts a lot of weird beliefs on things. But let's just call a demon for what it is. It's an energetic that steals your well-being. It's whatever you participate with in your mind, in your body, in the world, that takes your well-being and drops it from a place of satisfied with being alive to, I need so much to feel good. You understand what I'm saying? So it's what takes you down and makes you feel like you don't have what it takes inside of you. Right? So that's what you're working out in ceremonies. You're getting those things off your back. And we don't believe that in this society. You say spirits, we're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you guys were just eating plant medicine. You were just hallucinating. There's nothing real about what you were doing. Right? But the interesting thing is when you're in those moments of ceremonies, all the data you would use to say that we're here right now having this experience, I mean, what data are you using to prove this is happening? That same data exists in those other dimensions, so it's very real. You just can't put anybody in the back seat of your car and take them on the adventure, right? It's a personal adventure. It's not that it's not real. It's just that it won't be reinforced by your culture. Christianity is reinforced by your culture, right? But the personal truth is not, right? So this is to we use plant medicines to reconcile the confusion and the distraction in the brain. Because ultimately, I mean, what we're really after here is to develop the brain. And the humans have stopped doing that. I mean, their brain power is used to select the color of carpeting, what kind of mileage their car is going to get, how they can make themselves look better. right? I mean, that's a lot of brain power is getting poured into an identity that's going to die 70, 80 years down the road. But then there's that thing flowing through you, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about? The thing looking out of your eyeballs. So let's just do like something really quick, just so we can see if we can elevate this room a little bit, so we can get into a dimension with this. So just look out of your eyeballs. Ask yourself, and don't use words to figure it out, feel it. Where are you looking from? Don't. Well, it's me, or my brain. That's easy, and it's also false. So, where are you looking from when you look out of your eyeballs? Feel it. Where is that? Is that in you? Right? So we don't know much about that. Not as a society. So we learn about that. The way you learn about that is you allow that to be amplified. Plant medicines is one way. Because it pulls back the veil. It basically either inundates the thinking mind or just shuts it off, and in flows energy. I mean, that's really what, if you want to get down to it, these plant medicines, they don't exist in another dimension. You do. They exist in the oneness. They exist in that universal field. We're the ones who stepped out of it. Right? So it's on us. Right? And I don't come as a expert on plant medicine. I come as a friend to the human race and plants. And one thing everybody should understand right off the bat, plants run this world. I mean, we can go debate it all we want. Bottom fact, truth, beyond, no one can dispute it. Without plants, there's no life of any kind here. None. Right? Well, you eat a cow, the cow eats the grass. Right? It all starts with plants. They've been here the longest. They've never changed themselves. They've always been what they were always meant to be. Right? Humans are the ones changing themselves. Change is not necessarily good. Evolution is. But that's not change. That's metamorphosis. It's a totally different game. Right? Change is like I'm going to change the color of the wall. Metamorphosis is I'm going to turn that wall into energy and walk through it. You know, so it's a different game here. Right? So these plants have a consciousness that is far exceeding ours. And a far exceeding. It never became disconnected. Right? It also knows what the human beings are doing to the planet. Out of their needs and desires, they're turning Earth into products and throwing products away, and turning Earth into products, consuming it and throwing it away, and nothing really is changing. Nothing's really changed. You know, yeah, I mean, you listen to music on a computer instead of an 8-track, but it's going to just remain the same thing over and over and over again. Right? To where the consciousness within you, that's still connected to everything in the universe. So when you take the plant shows you your connection. And that's basically how it works.
Can we start
Yeah,
facing?
you can start that.
How do I start?
Boom.
Great.
Boom. Boom. Here.
So as a quick break, welcome this evening to the
Sorry.
Austin Relaxation Explorers Meetup Group. And many of you found us through the Austin Psychedelic Society Meetup Group. And thank you, Sarah, for your support. I appreciate you so much. So today we have Chris Douglas, that once you start talking, it is hard to make him stop.
Yes,
It's pretty much impossible, I think. So he took a few questions and it led into all that. So Chris lives in Colorado and has a community there called Nawal's Landing near Black Hawk, Colorado. And it's a place for learning about plant medicines and learning about healing. So I invited him down here to Austin and really happy to have him here. He's an expert in plant. He's a friend of plant medicines and plants. And studied under Carlos Castaneda. The last 2 years that Carlos was alive, he was an apprentice under him, and with many other great healers and leaders. And been working with plant medicines for over 30 years. So with all of that, I think
What's that saying?
it says go live. Welcome, Facebook.
Ah,
There we go. Now,
all right.
continue, Chris.
All right. So, I just want to tell everyone a little bit about me, okay? Because I'm just some guy. So when I was 18 years old, I was taken by a Mexican shaman and told to do a medicine ceremony, which turned out to be an ounce of mushrooms. And so I ate that entire ounce of mushrooms and had an 8-hour experience, which was hard to explain. I could sit here and say what it was, but that'd just take up too much time. What I will say is after that, for about 6 months, I felt like there was some extra sensory connection going on. This extra energy streaming through my consciousness. Right? And then about 6 months after that, a nervous breakdown that left me in a puddle of tears for about 3 days. I would call it divine visitation, because while I'm in that puddle, it brings me up and it says, this is where you're going, and that's where you're starting from. So that's what I think really enlightenment is. Waking up and realizing how far away from home you actually are. And what I mean by home is how comfortable are you with what's looking out of your eyeballs? Right? So I had this, what you call it, an existential breakdown. And I was 21 at the time, after all this, time went on. And was told, you need to leave California. You just have to go. So I left, moved to Colorado, and then met a Nez Perce medicine woman who then introduced me to 20 or 30 natives coming off the res. Worked with them a lot. And then from there, went down to meet this man named Joseph High Eagle. Joseph High Eagle lived in Colorado in a town called Mancos. He did not want to stay on the reservation. He was 96 years old. He would wear this medicine man outfit, and if you tried to take a picture of it, like many people did, all you would get was a light with feet sticking out of the bottom. It wouldn't be photographed. And people tried to have a picture on Facebook of someone trying it. Like, is that Photoshopped? It's like, no, that was from '94. That's not Photoshopped. And his teacher was a man by the name of Nicholas Black Elk, who's a pretty famous guy. Black Elk Speaks is the book about him. And he remembers being taken off the res, or taken to the res, taken from his family, shipped off to the Carlisle School in New York, head shaved, right, sent off into Europe to do all these cowboy and Indian shows. And when they're not doing the cowboy and Indian shows, they'd be locked in cages because they were the savages. Right? They were the savages. And so that was his life as growing up. And that's where he met Nicholas, was on these, from the Carlisle School. And this guy was, mean as hell. And I loved him for it. Because I wasn't really in a position to want to beef up some image. I had true internal suffering going on. And I wasn't running from it. So I chopped wood and carried water from the time I was 18 till I was about 30 for old medicine men and women, just so I could be around them. And to learn what it is they have, because they have a presence that, some of them still carry it today. And there was just something so awesome about that, right? And I wanted it. I wanted that more than anything, this presence. You know what I mean by presence? Life more abundantly. Like, take what you have and amplify it up to where that silence comes in and that wisdom just impacts you. Not from anybody, just from the universe itself. Right? Your intelligence is not a set in stone thing. You can grow that. Right? Where you are in a spiritual path, if that's what you're doing, that's not the end. That's not even the beginning. This world is infinite. Life is infinite. There is none of that. So it's really about how do you live with this every day. Right? And the more we embed ourselves in the society, the farther we get away from that presence. Right? Now it's all about who he says, she said, this is that, you know. It becomes one giant just confusion. Trying to get through your life just thinking about everything. That presence, right? Your energetic presence. That which is there before you start talking. You understand what I'm talking about? Everybody have an idea of that? What presence? So we want to amplify that, right? And that, I mean, really, that's not what everybody's looking for, is to amplify the sense of well-being. It doesn't matter who's doing what. It shouldn't. What should matter is, does the well-being in us, is that high enough that we're not troubled by the world, that we can actually help it in some way. Because, you know, I get it. City life is intense. You know, the rigmarole is intense. And there's not a whole lot of discipline in it for people to stop this life that they know is killing them and be able to make amends with the side of them that they really neglect a lot. Right? I mean, how many people are really interested in brain power for the sake of brain power? Most are interested in energy so they can do something with it. But to have the interest on the energy itself is a whole different game, because now you're not using all of your, well, let's just really break it down. Life force for a human being is attention. Okay? Whatever you're giving attention to, that's your life force doing it. Get what I'm saying? So life force is this. It's my mouth moving. It's me walking towards you. It's me looking at eyeballs. It's me breathing through lungs, chest beating, you know, heart beating in the chest, the whole deal. That's life force. That's what it's doing. Right? So we can do two things with that. We can apply it to the world around us and just throw it all out there. Or we can double it up on itself and look within. When you do that, it doubles up on itself. So then your life force now is not this little puddle, it's this becoming this lake. Right? And you draw from that, it's a much bigger experience. And the more you leave it alone, the bigger it gets, and the bigger it gets, and the bigger it gets. And then when life calls for an act from you that must be impeccable, must be dead on, and must be accurate, you have this store of energy to actually pull it off. Instead of having no energy, being desperate, cutting corners, and basically, you know, jiving somebody to get somewhere. Right? So it brings on integrity. So what are we paying attention to as a society? See, it's not, it's a little convoluted. First thing we should always give our attention to is our own being. You know, that thing looking out of our eyeballs. Right? Not the identity that we make. I'm this and I'm that and I'm so and this is me and this is my, you know. It's best to just let it be what it is and not use it to build this image, because those images are going to need all that attention all the time. The minute that attention drops, so does the image, and right, you got to work it. To where you're being, if you give energy to that, it just gets bigger. It gets more connected. Right? It gets quiet. Suddenly the anxiety turns into peace. Because you don't separate yourself from what made you. So, you know, one of the ways we reattach ourselves is by the use of plants. I mean, you could use yoga, I guess. I mean, you could use anything. It's not what you use that matters.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
There's people in the back.
There's seats up here.
So it's not, you know, the modality we choose that really makes the difference. It's how invested we are in it. When I mean invested, I mean your attention, your awareness, your will. Those are your, you want to know what your power is? There it is. First it's your intention, then it's your will, then it's your awareness. That's your power as a human being. Don't take it lightly, it's huge. Because you look at the mess out there or the mess you've been in, yeah, that's that same power. Right? It's what we choose to do with that. Right? So, in a way, any modality you pick is to bridge the gap between your intention and your will. Because they're really far apart. So you need to bridge that. Right? And then once that will has been bridged, you have to activate it. And that's awareness. Right? But you cannot act that in with that much integrity there unless it's about what you are genuinely. Because the minute it's not genuine, it's going to go off into some mental field. Right? So people will be like, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't know what's wrong with me. It's like, well, you're deluding yourself because who else would know what's wrong with you other than you? Right? So it's this scrambling of trying to take all that life force and just scatter it instead of building it up to amplify that will. Right? So, I mean, I had written down that intent without will has no legs. Will without awareness has no wings. You have to have these three together. Right? So first of all, you got to step outside of that society. It's not your friend, never will be. It's not there for anybody's best interest. We're all pretty sure of that. That it's becoming messy. It's really beginning to lack integrity. And we think there's some big problem. Well, the problem is that's not really what we were supposed to be about. We were supposed to be about developing the brain in an evolutionary style. Consciousness. It was always about consciousness. It was never about chasing women, chasing cars, chasing fame, chasing the truth, chasing videos on YouTube till 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, going through conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, from, Course in Miracles to A Course in More Miracles and to A Course in Miracles 5.0. I mean, we've spiraled out, and one of the reasons I like doing this is I'm trying to bring it back to what's the basic here. You are alive. Do you get that?
Yeah.
What are you doing with it? You happy?
Yes, working on it. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it's like your brain power, right? What are you using it for? Are you using it to clear out millennia of toxicity? Are you using it to see if we can't get the human race to stop playing Monopoly like it has for 10,000 years? To where we start going off into an area where we can be a little freer? I mean, that it's too tight. And everybody's feeling it, all that anxiety. And it's just piling up on top of itself. We're the ones to do something about that. You can dispel that. It's your power choosing. Right? So, I'm just going to take this all over the place because, we're just having a conversation. Anybody have any questions about anything so far? No? Good. Being clear. So, the one thing I do want to really hit on is that what we call anxiety, what we call fear, what we call depression, that is really a symptom of your society. You go down into the jungles, you go down to the forests. What is anxiety? I mean, not so much anymore. They've seen enough of us. But before it was, what's anxiety? And you try to explain it to them. They're like, oh, he's got a demon. Like, what? Demons. Bad energies. Right? And then I didn't really understand it. I mean, I understood the concept until you take a shot of peyote or take a shot of ayahuasca. Suddenly you're like, oh my God, these things are real, right? And they really are real. And really, what's clogging up the brain is them. These Don Juan, my teacher's teacher, called them flyers. Right? And what they do is they get in here through the ear. They whisper to you. So, perfect example of what I'm talking about. You're driving down the road, and all of a sudden you hear this voice, you're maybe on a mountain curve, where it's a big drop off the side, and you're driving up. All of a sudden a voice goes, you should just drive your car right off the edge. Everybody's had that, right? I see the smiles, everybody's had that. And you're like, no, that's ridiculous, and you don't do it. Some people are weaker and do that. Some of the demons are stronger, and they may not be able to get you to do that, but they'll be able to get you to tear your life apart in other ways. And it comes in as these thoughts that run counter to everything good in life. Right? Have you focused on this negativity all the time? Right? And it's really nothing more than a simple trick to get you to bring your energy field to such a level where you cannot prop yourself up. So you become dependent. Yeah.
Why or how do they benefit from us harming ourselves?
The life force you exude. Every time a bomb goes off, there's a insidious spirit smiling, taking all that juice in. You understand what I'm saying? It's heavy. It's a heavy subject. It's one that's America's going to have to get its hands on if it thinks it's going to cure the mental illness problem, because it's huge. It is huge. And everybody knows it. My own mother, who pretty much, no to me, or used to be, I asked her, I said, you seeing this? And she's like, yeah, it's like demons are running amok. People are doing things human beings do not do. They're not human anymore. You understand what I mean? They let something in that speaks for them now. They let something in that promised them the world, promised them the good job, the great husband, the whatever. And in return, it made them mad. I mean, it's like that story of Faust and Mephisto. He calls Mephisto to make him a better writer and ends up driving him mad. What does Mephisto say to him before it's time? Yeah, you control me here, but when you're dead, you're coming to work for me. That's why Dick Cheney doesn't want to die. Because he knows he is in trouble. He's going to live a life of servitude after that. I mean, these things are real. Human beings have really shut their eyeballs to the reality they're standing in. For one, you're in a very predatory universe. Did you know that? That this corner of the universe, this dimension that you're in, is predatory. Now, the predators human beings are up against, yeah, it might be the guy with the knife, the guy with the gun, but there's predators you don't see. And they're here to steal your life force. If we don't come to terms with that, then it's going to keep running us into the ground, and so we're all just going to turn a blind eye to everything going on. But they're running amok. Right? Where do they come from? I don't want to know. I just want them to go back where they came from. But the only way they're going to do that is if human beings reclaim their power. Do you realize what you are? Think about this. Are you just a body sitting in a chair? What about the universe looking out of your eyeballs? Have we really explored enough? Do we know that much? You're in an infinite universe. How much does any human being actually know? But we pretend, and we all agree, that we have experts, and these guys know what they're doing. Let them do it. Nuclear power plants. How insane is that? We can turn it on. We can't turn it off. And we can't turn it off for 50,000 years. That's really dedicating your children's children to some responsibility they may not want. Was that a good idea? I mean, listen to Cacao, listen to your politicians. Listen to the way they talk. They're insane. They think they know something. They think they know. I know. What is it they know? You look out of your eyeballs. What is that? Right? If anybody's truly honest with themselves, they have no idea what's looking out of their eyeballs and where it's looking from. Right, so then how do you know what you're looking at? How are you sure of what you're seeing? How do you determine that? what, the herd mentality says, oh, I see that, and well, yeah, I see it too. I mean, that's pretty much consensus is your reality here. But it's designed by predators. Totally designed by predators. If you don't think you're in a predatorial system, you're not paying attention. Right? So you could say that that's why the plants are making a resurgence in popularity. Because they're here to help you with that. We call it trauma, right? So what we call anxiety, they call an attack from a negative entity. Right? And a lot of those entities show up as light. That's the funny part. Right? Because light isn't really anything at all. It's a byproduct of vibration. That's what you really begin to see, is that more than you are your name or your job, more than you are your beliefs, more than you are your ideals, you are the energetic vibration that is present within you. That's what you are. No matter what you say, you are what you feel. So you start working on that level instead of going on some cosmic journey to meet the white knight and ride in to meet the Dalai Lama sitting upon some golden throne in some Shambhala place. You know what I'm saying? It's more about how you feel. Because inevitably, you can go on these flights of fancy. Guess where you're coming back to? Right here. If this is a mess, you can't run from that. I mean, you can, but you see what happens, right? The more you vacate the present moment, your presence, an empty house is soon ransacked. And then all those things that we call flyers, they come in. I mean, you could actually say that what they want you to do is be distracted from presence. That's why we're always looking ahead, always looking ahead. How many people are actually present? Like right here, right now. I know those are such cliche words, but think about it. How much of your energetic presence are you allowing to move through you at this moment? How much of that are you going to crank into your experience? And how much of it is devoted to what you have to do an hour from now? Or what you got to do tomorrow? How many people have actually really just came to that point of creation right now? See, I'm trying to blow open some things here. Do you know what creation is? Right now, right now, right now, right now. It's always happening. It's never not happening. And it's done so well, there's no seams. From one moment to the next, there's no seams. There's just an energetic shift. Experience that fully. Just feel. Don't think. See how that happens? Does that feel better? More alive? See, we're after divine presence within. So we can shine that out without it being obstructed. Reclaiming our own attention from the internet, from belief systems, because they're all coming down. Catholics just got big punch. How anyone can fall for that anymore? Really? Molesting children. That's what we accept now from our religious institutions. Wow. it kicks me right in the heart to think about that. Wow, people are being predatorized in the name of God.
I've lost the connection to plant medicine healing.
Right.
Follow what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting to what the point is in that. Okay? Because as we know, plant medicine is illegal. It's illegal. You have freedom of religion in this country, don't you? So, freedom of religion means that I can molest kids, but I can't eat plants. That's what they're saying, folks. Do you see the breakaway from common sense here? No? You have religious freedom, which gives one person the right to predatorize people. You eat that plant, you're going to jail. Is a priest in jail? So what I'm really, passionate about is we need to legalize these things for sure. But we have to see where we're trapped. You can't just go from one to the other. You have to undo where you are. The only way to leave a dark space is to find the exit. Right? And the fact that we don't get to do these things. You have to go to Peru to drink ayahuasca. But you can get antidepressants right down the street. The ayahuasca you won't have to do but 3 or 4 times. Those pills, you're going to have to eat them the rest of your life. The pills are legal, by the way. Plant medicine is not. The fact that there's even an institution that tells you what's right and wrong is a little weary and weird. Right? So, plant medicine, what do we do with that? We cleanse all that stuff. That's what you're supposed to do with it. It's not for tripping. It's not for, I'm going to go to a music festival and eat a bunch of mushrooms and just sit there. I mean, that's, you're not going to get much out of that. But ceremony, in order to do ceremony, there has to be a respect for the sacred. A deep, profound respect for what is sacred. Right? And what is sacred is what's looking out of your eyeballs. No matter what you choose to do with it. That's your sacredness. And what we do with it, I see what we do with it. Right? And I see what can be done about it. So, when I wandered into the plant medicine world, I was a kid with a very active mind, very active imagination, and a profound sense of all things weird. And so, my first foray into that was hell on wheels. It was not pleasant, and it was nothing good. It was confusing. But I didn't have a reason to do it. Right? It's not for exploration, it's for medicine. So you have to have something going on, which everyone pretty much does, to be able to do something with that. So basically, you're taking energies that are in knots in your brain, where it just nothing works when you get into it. When that particular area is triggered, it's a knot. And it just sits there, doesn't activate. So what I will see is when I'm looking at a person, they're just a projection of an energetic mandala that's behind her. Right? And that energetic mandala has symmetry in it. But there'll be like an area up here where the symmetry is off. It's all warped. And it pulses like this. Almost like when you get a headache, pulsing headache. It's kind of like that. It just sits there and pulsates in the energy field. So when you take them into the plant medicine ceremonies, that gets really active, right? And what you're doing is you can see it. There are spirits, let's just call them what they are. Spirits come in and will go right to that spot and undo it. Just sit there and work that knot loose, work it loose, and work it loose. And as it's happening, people are getting more and more, right? Some are able to pull it off as black threads. And others, it just comes right out of their mouth. They puke it out. They all do that. There's no plant medicine that's not a purgative. They're all purgatives. They're all there to purge. Right? So they're cleaning you out of your own toxicity. But yeah.
How do you decide for yourself what plant medicine work does
Well,
to help you release that toxin?
I mean, again, it's, who's deciding? Who's the decider in there? I mean, is it the being that's living eternally? Is it an aspect of ourselves that wants to do better? You understand what I mean? Because we got a lot of identities. No one's got just one. They've got the one when they're alone. They've got the one they are with their friends. They've got the one they are when they're out in public. They have the one that they are when they're being challenged. They have you get it, right? So there's all these identities running around. There's only one genuine one. That's the one where the heart's beating, right? So that one doesn't. It's more like it kind of gets magnetized to it, right? So ayahuasca is one of the bigger ones. That it's like I keep thinking ayahuasca. Watch this documentary and now it's all things ayahuasca. Well, if the attention is constantly on it, like ayahuasca, your attention is constantly going there. That's because she's going, hey human, I know you're suffering. I know you have trauma. I know it. I can see it. I know you're carrying a bunch of dark garbage from your past that you would be way better off if you just let it go. Come here. And you're like, and she's also got that ability to lead you right to her. I mean, if that's what is meant for you, boy, because the universe really is the one deciding this, not anybody else. If the universe is a very intelligent entity, very intelligent, energetic, actually. It is not some empty void of space with little rocks and big bright lights in it. It is actually a very, very populated space, and it's multidimensional. And it's hard to say what I mean by that, because the mind's going to go multidimensional. No. Your consciousness expanded across fields of sensories. The talents that you have, you couldn't even touch here. Right? The trick is if you can become their friends, you don't have to imbibe them so much. Right? When you stop having a need for them, you start having a relationship with them. Well, you don't have to consume anything. You're among them. Right? So one of the big problems with ayahuasca these days, the grandmother, the sacred, I'm going to see the sacred grandmother. It's all this pomp around it. Right? And grandmother, there's more than just that in there. Once you go into that state of being that it brings you to, there's a lot more going on in there than just Aya. I mean, yes, she's amazing, and I would not put her down one bit. Very potent. But there's other spirits in there. The minute we start building this, hierarchy within oh my God, it's like, really? That's what we're going to bring to the table is all of our jargon and labeling and stacking things up. It's kind of a problem. Or people will say, you have the best way to do these things is you have to go to the jungle. You can't do it in the United States. You have to do it in the place it comes from. And you have to go to the jungle and find a good shaman, which is nearly impossible. Because, again, what do you mean by good shaman? Someone who understands you? They don't even speak your language. Someone who understands your life? They live in the bush. Your lives are completely different. Their social milieu and the way they do things, it's not the same as we do. Not any of it. So how are they going to help us with our problems? And why should we rely on them to help us with our problems when it's not their problems? It's pretty much a Western mind problem, this insanity. Right? And everybody who's decided to take on that Western mentality, they're dealing with this. So it kind of goes against that. Right? So, one of the problems is you got a bunch of people flying to Peru to do ceremonies. But it's hard to assimilate that when you get home. right? Because this is where you live. You know, you got a job, you got a car, you got responsibilities, you got bills, you got all these things. Right? So the way we're going to have to adjust, if we're going to bring plant medicines into our realities, is it's really us that has to do the adjusting. Which means we're going to have to accept some things that really challenge us deeply. Right? Our rates of consumption. They will show you that really, in all honesty, because I've been shown this 1,000 times by every spirit I've ever worked with, that well-being and love come through you, not at you. That well-being goes like this, not like this. And your consumption is basically stopping this and doing this. Dumping your power out, and then going and using the money you get from that to go get the stuff that brings your power back. It's just like a gerbil on a habit trail. And so they show you these things. I mean, so let's really get into what these plants are showing you. I'll share a very personal experience, because this might show you what. So we'll talk about ayahuasca first. So there's grandmother ayahuasca, which is, y'all, we don't need it. It's a tea, right? I don't want to get into all the scientific stuff. There's plenty of that on the internet you can go read about. Let's not waste our time with that. So, you know, first ceremonies, it's like, oh, this is nice. This is pleasant. I like this. This feels like home. I feel like I'm more alive. I feel more invigorated. Wow, this is cool. And then all of a sudden it's like, you like this, yeah? Let me show you something. And then it starts getting dark. Right? So I'm going into this experience and I'm thinking, you know, okay, first one was good. Second one, I'm ready to go see God. Let's do it. Well, that's not what happened, right? I ended up in a very dark hole. So what had happened is Aya comes up to me. She's this little woman with a broom, all fractaled out, and because you don't see the broom. You're in another dimension. You're in the spirit world, really, right? And she's sweeping, and she looks at me. She's like, "Hi, Christopher." I'm like, "Hi, grandmother," because she's really nice that way. "I have something I want to show you." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go. All right, come with me." And then everything gets like, and it clears out. Now I'm 8 years old again. And it is the weirdest experience ever. I'm in my 8-year-old body in the house my parents had when I was 8 years old. And I'm watching this scene go down, but I'm in my body. I'm in the 8-year-old body. I'm standing there watching it. But I'm watching it from, present day. And I is standing next to me. And we're in my parents' basement, which they had turned into like a recreation room for kids. So all the kids would hang out at our house, right? So we had foosball and, the whole thing. Like it was in the 70s. All the kids played together, in a house somewhere. Instead of online, we were all together. You guys know, a lot of you know how that used to be, right? So our house was the one that, the parents were cool. So they could come over and no one's going to get in trouble. So we'd have 20 kids, just playing at our house all the time. Well, it's one of those days, right? Actually, it's a night. I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs in my 8-year-old body, and I'm watching this scene go down. And there is this guy, and I won't mention his name, because I don't want to disgrace his family, but he's like 21 years old, and he's there, right? And I'm watching this whole scene go down. I remember it all. And I'm watching it. I'm like, what are you showing me this for? She goes, just keep watching. So I keep watching the whole scene play out. And at one point, this 21-year-old kid, he goes up to a kid and he farts in his face. I'm like, Aya, why are you showing me this? This is ridiculous. What is here for me to see? And she's like, it's what you don't see. Look again. And it was like something evil just gripped me. I was like, what do you mean? I did not want to look. I was shaking. She's like, look again. And I look. And he's not farting in their faces anymore. He's molesting the kids on the couch. And I am sitting there. I don't remember this. I remember everything up to that point. I remember everything after that. And I'm sitting there shaking. Like, why are you showing me this? This didn't happen. Oh, yes, it did. I'm like, no. And I'm getting a little agitated and really pissed off. And scared and angry and super lonely all at once. Aya, this did not happen. Yes, it did, Chris. And I'm like, holy shit. And then it's deep dive into this guy's background, right? At one point, I remember looking up at him in this whole dream state, and this demonic face took him over. And that was enough to make your guts just wrench. This funky red eyes and this, like this insanity in there, right? And I look up at him, and all of a sudden I look over at Aya, I'm like, oh my God, this happened to him. And she's like, right, keep going. And it happened to him, and it happened to him, on down the line, right? And then I had this friend of mine who lived in the same town, and we were dear friends, and one day his family just up and left. No warning, no nothing. Went over to his house one afternoon, everything was fine. Went back the next morning, their house was cleared out and they're gone. Right? And I always wondered, that was kind of a point of, I was really disappointed. Like, I'd never see him again. And we were really good friends. I mean, we had a lot of energetic similarities that, I mean, you know, we were like two peas in a pod ready to take on the world, which is important as a kid. And just to have him up and gone. Well, it turns out he's the one who's been getting the worst of it from this guy for years. And parents found out and just left. Didn't deal with it. They were too embarrassed to deal with it. So I'm sitting there, right? And she asked me, she's like, can you let this go? I'm like, I don't even know how this is real. How did I not remember this? Because at a certain point, I realized, oh my God, this did happen. Holy crap, he was doing this a lot. And there was a lot of dark vibes around that, and that was the cause of it. So I'm looking at this, and I said, why, how come I don't remember this? And she's like, that's what I want to show you. And she grabs the scene with her hands like this, and peels it, right? So now the basement of my parents' house is disappearing. And then as she peels it apart, this, I'll just call a Leviathan. This thing was huge, just comes right out, right? And as it's coming out, I start hearing these spirits singing behind me, right? They're making these very intense sounds, and everything's getting swimmy and weird, right? And then it's like someone grabbed my spine, and I felt like I was being held here and held here. And actually was. They were standing there, two blue beings. And this eyes behind me grabbing onto my spine and squeezing it like this. Just squeezing it, just wringing it out. And I could feel it, like this kind of feeling, right? And there's this guy standing above me who's got this leaf hat on that's like out to here. It's all made of leaves, right? He looks down the top of my head and he's just going, and it's like it's opening the top of my head. And then all of a sudden he grabs this thing and yanks and yanks and yanks, and he's pulling, right? And as he's pulling, I'm feeling it like claws along my spine. I mean, you can feel it, you know, just up the vertebrae, just coming up and coming up, right? And then it was just everything went dark and curled in on itself. It just kept curling in on itself, and I felt like I was being turned almost inside out. And all of a sudden that tail breaks free from my head, and I just vomit a whole bucket full of this black, viscous liquid. Bucket full of it. And all of a sudden, Aya goes, I want you to see this thing. I'm like, what? It's like, I want you to take a look at it. I'm going to let it back in, right? So when you're in the medicine, in a good medicine space, you can see a dome over the room. And it's not light, it's vibrational that creates these kind of interesting, intricate geometrical patterns that really make that space safe, so nothing can get in, right? So she cuts a little hole in it, and this thing comes in, and it gets right here, right? This thing that has been, and I'll tell you what it was doing to me here in a second, but it gets like right here, and I'm scared to death, because what I see is a alligator snout, but with two lumps for a nose, deep sunken eye sockets, but red bulging eyes, a tail, so it's more like a serpent, and human lips, which is the most insidious thing I've ever seen in my life. I have not seen anything more insidious than this. This alligator with human lips that would just get in my face. So upset to be outside of me, so upset to be taken from its food source. Just pulling those lips back, and when it pulled them back, all of a sudden it's just rows of infinite razor-sharp teeth. And the feeling that came over me was like fear I've never known. I was like, oh my God. And she just grabs it by the tail and throws it out of the space. And it goes up against that dome I was just talking about and smashes into, just sheds out into about 1,000 little points of rainbows just fluttering through the room. Right? What I never understood was how that was affecting me. So, what's interesting, it was a trauma I had as a child that I don't even remember. That this thing, call it what you will, call me insane, that this thing was able to use my attention and divert it away from what was real in my life, what really happened. So I have no memory of this. But the minute it's out, I'm like, oh my God. I'm watching all these behaviors that were there as a means to curb this effect of this trauma. And I've been playing them out for 20-some years. And all of a sudden, I could see the reason for it. And once I saw the reason for it, she asked me, can you let this go? Can you forgive this? I'm like, I totally forgive this. Because the minute I saw that guy that it happened to him, and the fear he had to go through, yeah, totally, man. Yeah, let's just forgive this. Right? Which is what she really gives you the power to do, to forgive things. The minute I did that, it was like all of a sudden all this behavior that had been screwing with me for years is just gone. Weird habits, weird social inadequacies, or when an alpha male walks in the room, I just hate him. I don't care. I just want to tear his head off. You know, an arrogant prick. You know, and it comes from those traumas. Right? So it doesn't matter how old the trauma is. If it's not healed, that's in your energy field, and it's going to affect everything you do. So when you try to become whole again, you're not going to do that without working these things out. Because these are what's causing you to be fragmented. So to be whole is to heal those things. Right? And there's a lot in there that, again, I mean, we're in a culture where you're taught to bury disappointment. Just bury it. Right? But when you turn around to look for the sun, there's just a pile of disappointment that has to be cleared. Right? I mean, you poop every day. You should poop every day. Right? Or try to. And then if you're really constipated, go drink some ayahuasca. You won't be constipated. Out it comes. But you get to, it takes a certain amount of bravery to go there. There's a lot of people with a lot of anxiety. I don't know if I want to do that. Right, because you have some buried trauma. I'm not saying it's for everybody, and I'm not condoning anyone's use of it. I'm just saying that it's a very popular thing right now. And it's also can be very dangerous. So you really need to know why you're doing it. And if you're doing it because, you want to be better with the ladies, go take cocaine. Just throw that around. Throw around some money and cocaine. Just don't go there for that. I mean, I had one guy show up. He wanted to learn how to do sorcery so he could attack somebody who took his girlfriend from him. I'm like, really? That's awfully petty. Yeah.
That was a second ceremony that you had all that experience?
Yeah.
So it's like the third and fourth. Or how many total did you do all in consecutive row?
Like 6 in that one. So the third one, all right, and we'll just jump around. Let's go back to that. The third one was, I go in, second one was hell. It was 13 hours of unbelievable hell. So the third one, I'm sitting there, and Aya comes in, and I'm just like, oh my God. Right? I remember holding that shot in my hand, and it was big. I'm looking at it, and all I could think of, because that second time, I swore I'm never doing that again. That was hell. And I'm looking at it, and I just hear this, don't think. And then oh my God, I just did that. Oh my God, I just did that. And I just sat there going, oh God, here we go. What's next? So the next one was easier to deal with because you already had the trauma of the first one. So you realize what's kind of happening here a little bit. So this one I was very protective of my family, like super protective. Like nobody gets near them. And so this time I'm taken into another life, right, where I'm an Indian guy. Native American. And there's some giant battle going on in the field, and all of a sudden I'm landing in a body, right? Prior to that, I'm sitting on the floor in ceremony, right? And it feels like there's a like pain here, a stabbing pain here, and like a super pain in my neck. And I'm thinking, oh man, what's going on? There's something wrong. Something wrong. There's something wrong. Oh, this does not feel good. And all of a sudden, pulled back. And then there's Aya. Got something to show you. Okay, here we go. So I wander in. There's a battlefield. And there are Indians being slaughtered all over the place. They're way outnumbered. And I zoom in, and all of a sudden I'm in this body of this young warrior who's got a boot in his neck, right? A soldier with a knee here, and a guy with a bayonet just jabbing me right by my stomach while I'm watching my family being murdered right in front of me. Hit me like a train. Imagine what that looks like. Because you're re-experiencing this. It's not like you're having a memory of it. You are there. It's happening. And to go through that, right? Feeling nothing but despair. It's like, I can't do anything. I can't protect him. I can't protect him. I can't protect him. I can't protect him. Right? And then here comes Aya. Can you forgive this? And I'm like, yes. It was the biggest act of bravery ever to say, yes, I can forgive this. And then all of a sudden the scene clears out. And again, behavior changed. I was not this overbearing person on my family anymore. That I could let them go off and do things without having to worry about them, or, what I say, send some scouts along to make sure nothing's going wrong. So it was the anxiety about things. And once that was gone, I was like, oh my God, I feel free. So with each one of these revealings, once you let it go and you purge it and you forgive yourself, you get an energy back that is you. It takes you far beyond what we call satisfaction. So far beyond what being in love is. Oh my, you are whisked away to heaven.
So basically, you were getting in those trips or experiences like past life.
You work those things out. Now, past life, that's a belief system, right? When we start talking about that, that's beliefs. This doesn't really enter into that field because you're there experiencing it. It's not about believing you did. You're there doing it. Right? And you start to feel the trauma inside. So there's a connection there. Right? Because, it's a little wild. It's like, well, wait a minute. You could just have been tripping your balls off and you were just mistaken. You can't mistake feelings. I don't care how hard you're tripping. You know what you're feeling. Right? So, it took me probably 2 or 3 times to really trust that this is real. After that one, I was after the first one, really, I was thoroughly convinced. Because I came out of that ceremony just, boom, like, wow, I feel more alive than I ever have. I feel better than I ever have. I actually feel good, for real. Not just something I'm telling people and then going and biting my nails in the corner. It's actually real. I actually feel this. Awesome. Right? So after that, it got a little easier. Must not have too much or whatever. We would just go through scenes of my life. Just the absurdities. This. She would go, this. Look at this. You really want to hold on to this? I'm like, nah. She's like, you let that go? Yeah, so peel it off, peel it off. You just start peeling off like what I call layers of shadow. Right? And one night we were in there and I'm just going through it. I'm doing this and everybody can see me doing it. Going through all these layers of shadow, peeling it off, peeling it off. And at some point I noticed there was like every time I peeled a layer, there was a brightness. So I just kept peeling. And just kept peeling. And it got brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And pretty soon it's like you peel off this crud layer and all of a sudden your soul is yours. It is like opens up like a domain all of its own. And you roam through it free as a bird. No problems. You are so protected there. Right? And what I've always found is that actually translates back to this life. That surge of energy. right? You don't put the lamp out anymore. You light that fire from within and you let it burn, right? And how much can you let it burn? Can you let it burn your belief systems? How about dogma? How about past relationships? How about disappointment? How about hatred? Can you just let all those burn in that fire? And just watch all of that trapped energy get turned into something that amplifies your life force in a way that feels like you're above the clouds, not in them. And that's really what we're after. Fire. Come on, Prometheus, bring us fire.
I personally have experience with Native American Church,
Uh-huh.
off and on for probably 30 years. I've been told many times in there that you're not there for yourself. You're there for future generations.
Right.
You're not there to navel gaze. You're there for whatever the purpose of the ceremony is. It's put up for this particular reason. They're sending a kid off to war, or somebody's ill, or all kinds of reasons. And I just want to say this because there's been a lot of talk about the darkness, but to me, it's heart medicine.
Right, absolutely.
It's about learning how to be a compassionate person.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to say that much.
Sure. Yeah, and I that's true. I mean, it is definitely about opening the heart. It's not, is it for us? Well, I mean, what do we mean by us? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
you
like,
learn through
as
compassion that it's you said before it's coming through you like this.
Absolutely.
It's not
Right.
this.
See, we're at that time now where there are things stopping that from happening. There are entities afoot that are trying to stop that from happening.
There's always been entities trying to stop
Right,
it.
but now we need to do something about it. If we are going to continue as a human race with integrity and viability, be from the heart instead of just money and consumption, then that's going to have to change. So, people who are wandering into plant medicines today are going up against some pretty intense energies. You're talking about hair-raising experiences. Now, how that works for the future generations, you're clearing out the trauma, right? So, to clear out trauma is going to take a warrior move for a lot of us, especially us younger. It's a warrior move. You're going to have to stand up against these things as they come at you. And the way you're going to stand up to them is love. You're not going to fight them. You're not going to win. You're not going to outthink them. They're smarter than this whole room put together. They're way more intelligent than we are. And they know our behaviors before we even act them out. But what they don't know is that spontaneous reality coming from Creator. So when we sit in that, and we emanate that out, there's the antidote to it. Right? But they're strong. See, because the natives I hung out with, they would talk about these things that they would call hueticos or hueticos. Same thing as the flyer. And Joseph would talk about him a lot. He's like, look, he has the huetico. I'm like, what is this huetico? He said it's the demon sickness. I'm like, what? He's like, it got on the white man. And you see him carrying it around. It separates them from life itself. So they don't have a strong connection to life, that pulsating. Theirs is more of a mental connection, and they're left kind of dangling off on an island. So we need to heal that. That's not going to be happening from kumbaya. It's battle time. But battle with love. Because that's really what you're involved in. So, in ceremonies, when it gets dark like that, that's healing. The healing is the suffering. That is the healing. So it's not negative. It's dark. And the energy of healing is this dark pool. It stirs up everything. It just gets it up. Right? Lifts it off of that frame of reference we call ourselves. And all of a sudden we get this clear view of what we're involved with. And how this thing is affecting our behavior. How this thing is affecting our relationships. How this thing is affecting our emotions. And we just turn and look at it, stare that ugly, insidious thing right in the face, and we say, oh, vámonos, pinche diablito, vámonos, you have no power here. Because the power they have is yours. It's your attention that gives them power. Right? And we're kind of forced to give them our power, in a way. Yeah?
When you say the word intention, I was going to ask, as one who has never experienced a journey, but has laid a lot of groundwork, foundation work, and one has recognized, say, demons or traumas, and is looking to take an experience like ayahuasca or another plant medicine. It's clear that grandmother shows you what she wants to show you, but can one set an intention saying, like, here are some clear things that have been identified and utilized? I mean, I guess if you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 journeys in a row, maybe one of those journeys could be that, but
Yeah,
is it
5's pretty
safe
much
to set an intention, or is it just safe to just strap in and let grandmother take you
Well,
where she wants to?
yeah.
Or is there other medicines that might be?
If you have a hard time with intentions, I would say peyote. I would say mescalito, because mescalito doesn't take any BS. See, so grandmother ayahuasca is a very loving, compassionate. She's like your grandmother, okay? She's like your loving grandmother, who's stern but loving, who you respect no matter what, and you know she's always right. Right? That's grandmother Aya, and she will be like, "Oh, my child, come with me, come with me. Let's go talk a little." Boom, and then throw you through the door, but she's right there with you. So when you're going through these head-slamming things of, like, the traumas of childhood revisiting you and you're getting rid of them, she's there caressing you, stroking your hair, holding your head while you're like, because it's really hard to let go of some of those traumas, right? I mean, I've known people who will hold on to them all night, and it won't go into that bucket for 6 hours. And they'll just sit there and shaking it all night long because they won't let go. There's some aspect of their identity that is so rooted in that suffering that if I let go of that suffering, I won't be me anymore. I won't be who people love if I let go of this, because they love me because I'm here stuck to this thing. And if I actually can let go of it and start moving, I might move away from the people who love me. I have to stay here in my suffering. You want me to put it to you in a different way? I knew a woman who I had a relationship with, that she was my lover and girlfriend until we went to her parents' house, and then she was her parents' daughter. And they were 2 separate people. That suddenly she was this really potent woman, knew a lot, and would stand up to anything, until she got around her mother. And all of a sudden the hands would go on the stomach. She would do this. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I got to know the relationship between the mother and daughter, intimately what that was. Very damaging to her. The mother was not even aware of it. The woman was such a control freak, such a you are who I say you are. And, so this woman was powerful until she got into that, and she was wrecked. I mean, nervous and tense and shaking and full of anxiety and trying to please mommy and daddy at 30-something years old. Right? If that doesn't tell you there's things out there that can really cripple you, things can really cripple you. A bad home, a bad family life is extremely crippling to all things evolutionary. Might not be crippling to, you can have that happen, you can still start a really, really successful business. But you can also be a wreck up here. And you can also be causing that damage all over the place. You know how many rich people I've met who have asked me if they could sleep with my wife? They come in to help. They want help. Right? And I'll say, well, you want help? Okay. This is what it's going to cost you. What do you mean it's going to cost me that? I'm like, dude, you blow $5,000 on a TV. Right? And then they come in, and they think they just have access to everything. Hey, your wife's pretty cute. Yeah? Okay, you're about 2 steps from becoming inappropriate. Hey, you should let me sleep with your wife. Really? Do you want to own your teeth anymore? Because I'm about to knock them out if you don't stop. I mean, it doesn't translate. Right? These things it just gets really rampantly weird. You know, so when people say they want to heal, what is it they want to heal? Right? I mean, these things happen. It gets very strange in this world. Right? And if you're one working with plant medicine and you're trying to help others, you're taking all the risk. All of it. Yeah.
Everything I've read and everything I've seen online about ayahuasca, when they do the ceremonies, it's usually people in a group in a circle,
Uh-huh.
and you have like a mat, you've got like a bucket, and they set it all up. I'm curious, why do they do it in a group setting? Because everything I've seen about it, it's a personal experience. You don't really have interaction with people around you during the experience. So what's the purpose of the group if it's all internal?
So it's only all internal for a little while. And then at some point, and personally, I mean, what I've seen is when you get a group of people together, and they're all strangers, they don't know each other coming in. By the end of that ceremony, you are all, let's just say, crew members. And you all went through it together. And, it seems like it's very personal, and in the jungle they make it that way. It does not serve Americans. What serves Americans is, so we'll be sitting in ceremonies, and all of a sudden there'll be someone over there. And then, someone like a good friend of mine in the back of the room will just poke his head up out of his journey and look over and look right at him and walk up to him and help him, So part of it will be like this, right? So let's imagine you're the guy. You're like, oh. There's, my friend there laying out on the floor, and I'm just kind of overlooking the room. He's like, I feel inside that I can help this guy. He picks up something, could be sage, to smudge him. It could be Mapacho, which is tobacco. Head medicine spirit, it protects the room. So you blow it on people. Right? And that you watch this male spirit come in. And he's basically saying, ain't no one here messing around, you got it? And says it to the spirit world, this is my room, and you won't mess around with these people. They're here to heal, you leave them alone. So all the insidious things that try to steal your attention can't even come in the room. Mapacho does that. So they'll blow smoke. There's stuff called agua de Florida, water, Florida water. It's this old perfume. It was made in the 1840s. You go all over the world. If they're a shaman or a medicine man or working the plants, a vegelista, an ayahuasquero, a Wachumero, they'll have a bottle of that sitting there. And you splash someone with it when they're like really in the despair of something negative, and it just clears it. It's like it just chases it off. The flower essence is in it. Right, so you're using everything. When you're in a ceremony, you're using everything. So if an animal comes in the room, you're using the powers of that animal. It's like mine's a bear. So when I have ceremonies, I call the bears in. Right? And oftentimes people will see bears. Right? They'll be like, I took some ladies into a ceremony and they come out of it 3 or 4 hours later. Well, hey, Papa Bear. I'm like, what makes you say that? It's like I was way out there in the universe, just traversing all over. And I just kept getting afraid. And every time I would feel afraid, I would turn around, and there you'd be standing there, a bear in a blonde wig, doing a jig, right behind me. And so they could just go and go and go deeper and deeper into that journey, because I'm going to make sure nothing messes with you while you're gone, because that's what someone did for me. So Carlos Castaneda, that's what he did for me. I mean, he ripped the door off of Pandora's box, the lid right off. All the dark and nasties of my entire life comes flooding out of it. And he says, you need to clean this up. And I'm like, John, where do you even start? Right? And while I'm sitting there trembling and shaking and almost losing it, he's there holding space in a very, very tight way. where I can do all that gnarly work that usually drives people into insane asylums. And it's a safe place to do it so I don't lose my marbles. That I actually am going to polish them and get them back. So I can be intelligent again. So I can make decisions that enliven me and enliven those around me instead of ones that take, and damage. You know what I mean? So yeah, so say like someone's down there and might just come up and See, plant medicine isn't about going on journeys. It's about being clear. That you know your intent. You know why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing it to further yourself along life's road. Not, I don't like it here, I'm just going to lay down and die. Oh, the world's so hard and so mean. I'm just going to go rob everybody. Oh, no one likes me. Let me lie about who I am. Let me send out an image to this girl. I'm all that in a bag of chips, man. I'm going to hold down a job and buy diapers. See what we're dealing with? So it clears all that out. So yeah, you want to heal with plant medicine. You have to face the things that you've been having a really hard time with letting go. Because it's going to get in there. It's going to have you in a chair, laid back with the universal psychotherapist. And then you're going to be laid out. And every time you go, okay, I think we're done, she's going to shove your head back down. Oh, you're not done yet. If it's peyote, if it's mescalito, and you want to get off that couch, he just starts kicking you. Right? So, I is the nice one. She's the grandmother, the healer, the queen, and the feminine. Now, masculine, was Mescalito. Mescalito is like you go up, take that drink, or you eat those buttons off. Eat those buttons with that mouthful of just weird powder. And all of a sudden, about 30 minutes into it, you're just kind of sitting there. All of a sudden, you're like, what is that? There's this door that kind of shows up in front of you. You just sit there. You can sit there all night. And you could just be staring at a door. Aya comes and gets you. Come on. Aya grabs you and says, come on, child. Peyote is like, he's in the house. And he doesn't want to be bothered. Mescalito doesn't want you bothering him. So when you walk up to his door, you could stand there. If you're just going to stare at the door all night, which means you're just kind of high, then nothing happens. Now, if someone's in a ceremony and that happens, hey, go knock on the door. Don't stand there and stare at it, knock on it. Tap, tap is super trouble for you. Tap, tap, because that door flies open. What do you want? That's pretty much how he is. What the hell do you want? Why are you knocking on my door like some meek little loser? What are you here for? I'm here to learn. You better be. Because he ain't going to let you stop. He likes someone to walk up to his door and boom, 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 and stand there. right? When he opens that door and goes, what the hell do you want? I want to learn. You better be here to learn. And then if you're there to learn, it's amazing. If at some point you're learning something that you don't want to learn, like, I don't really want to look at that. He's like, oh, you don't want to look at that? He'll kick you right here. Over and over and over again. So he's not super kind. He's not nice. He doesn't play nice. If you are in your impeccability and in your integrity with your genuine self, the one looking out of your eyeballs, projecting your expression into the world, instead of using it to judge everything, if you can do that, he rewards that with knowledge, wisdom, a compartment of life force that allows you to withstand the tragedy human race is going through on all levels. That you don't lose your love no matter what's going on out there. He teaches you how to live. But you have to want to know how to live. If it's just some whim of yours, peyote is not your thing. Because it will wreck you and leave you a mumbling mess. You see them on the streets of Austin, don't you? Just all skitzed out, dirty, mumbling. Where do you think they went? They went somewhere that something was to happen in their consciousness that they didn't allow. It split them in half. And now they're walking around all slow and, hey, bro. You've all seen people like that, right? Someone who went into that space. Oh, I don't want to learn that. I don't want to learn that. I don't want to learn that. They fragment. Because it's going to teach you about the core things that cause suicide, that cause divorce, that cause war. No, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's going to show you how this works inside of you. It's not up to them to make you well. It's up to you to make you well. They just show you how it's done. Not in a mental way, in an energetic way within. Right? In a way of medicine. Give your power back to yourself. Right? It's hard to do. It's hard to surf this universe with very little knowledge. But it can be done.
Well, the way you described ayahuasca and peyote, how would you characterize mushrooms in that? You know, like
So mushrooms, you're getting into, they're a lot more fun, a lot more unruly. Mushroom ceremonies, a lot of people will like to do what they call microdosing, where they get to manage that experience very little bits at a time. And it's great for euphoric reason, it definitely is an antidepressant in that way. But the mushrooms themselves, we say mushrooms with a plural, because there is a whole bunch going on in there. And they don't speak English. To where I will come at you with the Spanish that you can go, oh, I get what she's saying. Even Mescalito will come in with a vibration that you can actually decipher right there on the spot. Mushrooms, not so much. They come in all... Right? And it just stirring everything up inside of you. There's about 13 spirits running around inside of the mushrooms. One of them's there just to freak you out. Right? One of them likes to put on fancy little masks and scare you. Ah! You're like, oh, don't do that, right? Another one's like whispering in your ear all the time, telling you about all your inadequacies. Right? While the other one's in the other ear, speaking all your strengths. Right? And then you got two just standing there watching the whole scenario, laughing, the other one crying. And then you got the head medicine spirit, who is not from this planet. Now, mushrooms are really different. They're not root plants. You see, they're not from Earth. Right? So, when you're talking ayahuasca, she'll help you walk the Earth. She's from the Earth. Peyote will teach you how to live with spirit on the Earth. Mushrooms are going to show you what cosmic life is like. And when I mean cosmic, I mean, whoa, cosmic. So, let me just give you an example. 8-ounce mushrooms in a ceremony, and then I sit there, I'm eating the bag. It's a big bag, really big bag, and I'm eating them. At some point, I'm looking at the last one going, oh my God, that's probably too much. Right? So I ate the last one, and I just remember looking up and going, am I going to be okay? They're like, yeah, you'll be fine. And all of a sudden I just lay back, and I just fell back and passed out. I mean, I passed out. I just fell straight back. The minute my head hit the ground, because I was, sitting up, so when I fell back, it wasn't like from here down. They laid me out, and the minute I was laid out, I was standing up, looking around, and I'm staring at this weird-looking energy on the floor. I'm like, what in the hell is that? Just like, it's all morphing and weird. And then all of a sudden, there's a spirit standing here, and a spirit standing here, and they're blue. They're like really blue. They've got these weird-looking eyes, and they're like looking at me. They're like, are you enjoying that? And I'm like, what is that? It's like, that's your meat suit. And I'm like, whoa, you gonna stare at your meat suit all day, or are we gonna go somewhere? Right? I'm like, well, let's go somewhere. Right? So there's my body, and all of a sudden I'm standing there, and one of them grabs me by the pits here. The other one grabs me here. And all of a sudden they start making these sounds. Like a Siberian shaman. Let's see how I can do it. And as this is going on, we're lifting off the ground. Sound is carrying them. But again, we're vibrational beings. Vibrational. Sound. So this vibration's happening. I'm getting lifted up. And all of a sudden I look up and I see this crazy patterning. And it's me going through the roof of this apartment, right? And out the top. Right? And all of a sudden I'm outside. They've still got me. And I'm looking around and the sky is just undulating. Whoa. Whoa. Just doing this crazy turning. And every time I would do it, there'd be these little holes. Right? And so the best way to describe it is, the salt shakers that have a little teardrop thing that pushes over the hole so salt won't come out. It's shaped like a teardrop, and you can move it over the hole or off the hole. So every time the sky would undulate, there'd be these little things swirling around holes. And then it would all stop, and some of the holes would be closed off, and some of them would be open. Right? And the ones that would be open, all of a sudden there's this double helix of DNA dropping out. I mean, that's what it looks like, a ladder, but it looks like a DNA strand. Just tapered down. I mean, you can see all of the little intricate, crazy patterns, which we call letters, all the stuff on them, right? And all of a sudden, you could just project yourself. I mean, without any effort at all, no body at that point, but totally like I'm standing here, just without a body. It's that real. Go up to one of those ladders, and you can go up them. You poke your head in, you're in a different dimension. This is really cool, super cool. So I'm poking my head in one, I'm like, oh, and then I back out. Poking my head up, the other one back out. The spirits, they left. I don't know where they're at this point. So I'm watching this happen for a while, and then all of a sudden it all stops. Another ladder drops out, and I climb up it, and there they are, standing there on the edges of this other dimension, right? The minute I pop my head in, they grab me from the shoulders and just pulled me up into it. Where I went was this dome. It was huge. Infinite, really, like this, draped down almost like a cathedral. This big, bright light at the top, right? And I'm floating in it, right? And I could float up, up, up. I couldn't actually get to where that light was emanating from, because the closer I got to it, the further away it would go. So it didn't matter. I mean, there was just no touching it, right? So I settled down at some point in the middle, and these geometrical shapes were popping out of the wall. And there are shapes that I can't even, there's no names for them. Sacred geometry for sure. And they would come out of the wall, and they would sit in front of me, and they would turn. And as they would turn, they'd start making tones, vibrations. Right? And then that vibration would peak, and there would be this like beam of light that shot out of them and would hit me. And then another shape would come out. This went on for 8 hours. Nothing but that, the whole time. Laying in this dome, with these energetic shapes that seem like living things to me, because they have consciousness. You're connecting with them, right? And so they're spinning, and they would drop these vibrations on me, and I would vibrate at different parts of my body depending on which it was, what color it was. And 8 hours later, I just sat up and went, oh my God. Not from what I saw, because that was enough. Suddenly there was like a added layer of knowledge, but a knowing, not information. Make sense? A knowing. That no one can take from me. That it might make me crazy, but I'm me and I like it. So if crazy is what I am, fine. Right? But it gave me this level of acceptance. Really, I mean, what it translates to here, not power. I am not interested in power. I played that game. It's not a fun game. Because in order to play a game of power, then you've got to maintain a defense. You've got to maintain an offense. I don't want to play a game. I want to be real with it. So I gave away power for life. Because I like life force. I like a vibrancy. I like not being bored. And boredom to me just comes from a lack of living. A lack of feeling alive. And I don't want that. So I've used it explicitly to gain well-being and freedom. Freedom within consciousness. That I'm not under the yoke of something here. This belongs to me now. My brain is mine. It doesn't belong to the system. It doesn't belong to society. It doesn't belong to some God or some man or some modality or some belief system. It belongs to me as a being. And I realized the real power of it is to express your heart. Express who you are in the world. Instead of trying to figure something out all the time.
Do you think a lot of the same benefit can be derived from ayahuasca outside of the traditional ceremonial environment, or do you think that's...
I think for most Westerners, they'd be better off. And, you know, is it appropriating someone's culture? No. It's a plant. I mean, you know, they're here for everybody. Westerners could really use that medicine right now just to clear out all that confusion and that debris and those belief systems and all that trauma from childhood, all that stuff. I find that for Americans, for sure, at least in my experience, it's best to give it a kind of a communal type thing. And I don't mean, you know, putting on robes and joining a cult. I mean accepting each other as brothers and sisters, right? And that way we can stop being so separate as a nation of people. I mean, yeah, we're pretty diverse here, but we're also extremely separated. I mean, how many people are having more conversation with their friends over a device than face to face? Right? We need to bring that human element back. So, get to you in a second. Their settings are kind of separative, to where for us it needs to be inclusive. Right? And what I find that when you have a group of people doing it, whether you're in the traditional setting or, you know, I mean, it's really a traditional setting all the way around. You come in, you sit down, you sit on the floor, you take your spot, you drink the tea, you go to work. It's really no different. But when you get a group of people together where the cohesion is there, then that energy in the room is amplified. And when you amplify that energy and you've got like a few people who've been there before, well, they're bringing in some potency that everybody else can benefit from. Right? So it's teaching us how we can use our energy in a way that benefits each other instead of destroying each other, which we could truly stand to learn here. You know, have a little compassion for one another. You know, I'd love to just walk into Washington and just go, here. You can't be president until you drink this. Get all that out of you before you turn us all nuts. You know? But, so I kind of, you know, so if I'm, you know, holding ceremonies for anyone, I tend to, they say, well, you don't have very many rules. I'm like, no, the only rule is you show up with your heart. You show up ready to do work. You show up to be one with spirit. And that's all. That's it. So if that means you're going to jump up and sing, have at it. If that means, you know, someone is shaking and sweating and crying, and you want to walk over and just put your hand on their heart and let them know, it's all right, brother, you're going to be okay. I'm not going to say no to that. I mean, you go to the jungle. There's some things that go on down there that we might want to sit here and make this all a pretty thing. The jungle, doing medicine in the jungle, is dangerous. For one, you don't know who you're doing it with. Not that you would anyway, but there's guys down there that are strictly there just to cause you harm. There are villages there where people pay to do this. They go to ceremonies where they have brujo battles. So it's one guy on one side and one guy on the other trying to kill each other energetically. Get thrown in the middle of that and your head's coming off. You see dragons and these crazy, crazy creatures. What the hell is going on here? It's a battle. It's like a rap battle. We throw down rap style and they throw down, let's get into the other dimensions and send these energetic things at you. So, outside of tradition, yeah, it's a great thing for us. We're not a headhunter culture. Right? We're not really caring that much about power here anymore. At least not the bulk of us. Right? We just want a good life, right? Know what everybody wants? You just want a good life, right? You want one where you feel sure of yourself, that your integrity is, you don't challenge your own integrity, that you can act with some impeccable behavior, that you can really be there for someone else, that you can truly not take something personally. So you don't throw your energy on the floor all the time, wondering what's wrong with me. I mean, one of the best benefits of plant medicine I've had is I can be alone by myself and it don't hurt me. Yeah, I know that doesn't sound like much, does it? That's extremely profound. To be alone and not hurt yourself. Right? That while you're alone, you are evolving. Not just picking away at yourself. Because that's what most people are. I say that as a generalization, sorry. Most people pick at themselves when they're alone. Most people are not very nice to themselves when they're alone. You ever notice that? How nice are you when you're by yourself? Honestly. That's the thing, really, that kicks it all into gear. Honesty. How honest are you with how you really feel? It's okay to walk around the world. Yeah, great. Yeah, everything's great. Doing good. How you doing? Good, man. Good. And then go home and you're drinking yourself to death. So good? I mean, who's lying at this point? See, so, if you want plant medicine to be something workable, easier, honesty. Not just honest about your feelings, about yourself. What is it inside of you that's real? I know plenty of people who have these lofty words and the energy does not match. That they're speaking this love and light, namaste. And underneath that, there is an energetic signature that makes you kind of want to vomit. It's so self-important. It's so arrogant. And like, what is going on here? And you start to learn that. I mean, once you realize you're an energetic being, that you're an energetic being that vibrates, and that as you vibrate, you put off a frequency. We call that a feeling, an emotion, a vibe. Oh man, I like this guy's vibe. What do you think they're talking about? They like his words, his jacket, is that his vibe? No, it's the energy he's putting off. They're putting off. Right? And a lot of people will speak one way and put off a completely different vibe. Perfect example, I knew this lady, I ran her coffee shop. She didn't like me. Her husband did, but she didn't, and it was very well known. And the guy that managed it with me is standing next to me. And he hadn't seen her in a while because he was living in Colorado and so was I. So, he wanted to visit her, so he came back. There she was. She's like, "Oh, Justin, it's good to see you." And I'm standing next to him. And she's just going on about how good it is to Justin. She's like, "And we're going to Moroccan food tonight. Everybody's coming. You should come, Justin." And then she looks over at me. "Oh, Chris, and you can come too." To which I said, "Why would you ask me to come? You don't want me to go." "Oh, no, it's fine." I'm like, "I'm not wanting to go, but I'm just wondering why you're asking me. We know you don't like me. So why?" "Well, I just want to be polite." "Oh, you want to be polite? Oh, neat. That's a neat little thing. Be polite. You're lying." So, You call it polite, I call it you're lying out your damn mouth. That what you are actually expressing is not what you're saying. And if you think that doesn't lead to confusion, you're out of your mind. If you don't think that's the real reason there's problems in everybody's relationships, there it is. Are people honest in those spots? Right? So I mean, you take on plant medicines, you better be honest with what you're really feeling, because it ain't gonna let it loose. And every feeling you have will be amplified. Every single one of them, beyond your ability to mentally control it. It will take it into an area where this is between your soul and this thing and your creator, whatever you want to call that. Because it's coming down to that. It has to be honest work. Right? So it clears all out, all that. Well, I like you, man. You and me, yeah, we get along great, right? And then meanwhile, you're stabbing him in the back every chance you get. You know? I know a lot of people who have these great friends, but except for when their friends aren't around, they just want to talk mad crap about them. It's like, how do you really feel about them? Right? And so that's part of our confusion. Is that the energy we put off and the words we say, they don't match anymore. Most often, they don't match. So there's going to be no real communication coming from there, is there?
A couple questions. Is it possible to do the ceremony in places in Austin, places around here in the city?
I hope not, because for anybody who's doing that, you could get in trouble. Lots and lots and lots and lots of trouble. If you decide, there's people, I guess, running around all over the country holding the ceremony with this. I'll say more power to them, but man, are they risking everything. What are they risking it for? So people can get well. That's what's really going on here, is you've got these people who it has helped them tremendously. I mean, PTSD guys. I've had guys from the Army just crushing their families. Come on in, let's work this. And they'll come out of it, they'll snap right out of it. And they'll be happy. They don't have a habit, they don't have an ayahuasca habit, they don't have any plant medicine habit. But they're better. And they're loving again. And they're looking at their pain in a different way now. They're not, man up! They're not doing that. They're like, wow, I can cry. Yes, you can. Wow, I can have a heart and be emotional. Yes, you can. I can really feel bad about what I've done. Yes, you can. I can really feel bad about what's happened to me. Yeah, you can. No one's telling you can't. Now get it out of you. Clear it out. Clear out all that sadness. And get back to what God made, which is wow, everything, including what's looking out of your eyeballs. So that expands. Once it gets out from underneath the yoke of something so constrictive, it's like you've knocked down a corral and your consciousness is infinite again. And you were just tricked into thinking that it was so limited because someone threw up a corral. And anytime you wandered out to the edge, get back in there. Right? Well, eventually you get, bigger and stronger than the things holding you in. And you lay those out, it's an infinite field. And when you feel that infinity in you, that's heaven.
That was my next question, as far as where you go when you do the ayahuasca, when you go to the other dimensions, when you actually are in the experience. Once you're off the ayahuasca, can you still sometimes, without the ayahuasca, experience those things? Do you need the ayahuasca to experience that while we live this life, or can you still do that sometimes once you've had the experience, even without it?
It would really depend on your intent with it.
Your what?
Your intent, right? So if your intent is to hold your energetic presence and well-being at a high spot, once is enough. But if that's a weak intent, you're going to have a lot of squeezing of that, right? So, yeah, it's possible to do it once. I liken it like this. They're showing you how to get somewhere. They're showing you a map. Because ultimately you can do it on your own. You don't need anything. but we're a little far from that. But ultimately, yes, you can totally make this room go away and be in a visionary state without the use of anything. It does help. They definitely help. But at a certain point, you take it. It's almost like you're making an exchange. Okay? You're giving the plant legs and mobility and human eyeballs to look out of, and it's giving you the way it views the world, where it's coming from, what it experiences every day, which really is enlightening for us. So you go there, right? And it gives you the directions. Pretty soon, you go there a couple times, you know how to get there. You don't need the directions anymore. So you no longer need the consumption. You already know how to get there. Right? And it's kind of a weird way of putting it, getting there, because there is no there. There's here. There's here with a dim light, and there's here with a really bright light. Right? That will be determined on where you're vibrating at in this whole thing. If you're vibrating as a victim, you're going to see nothing. But if you're looking to heal and raise yourself up, get your dignity back, be what, that guy Jesus said, ye are all gods, behave like one. Doesn't mean I control and I will tell you what to be and do. It's be in those heights of consciousness where you emanate love. That's just what you do. Sometimes it's tough love. When you take the table of a banker and kick it down the hallway. Happens. Right? So, it's that frequency is really what matters. Where you're going to be on this scale of consciousness.
I've done this without any drugs or anything in my dreams.
Yeah.
I've gone beyond, and that's why I'm curious about with the drugs what I'd be able to do.
Well, you would be. Do whatever you want, but watch what you're allowing to have control in there.
I'm sorry, watch what?
Watch what you're allowing, what controls the intent.
Exploring consciousness, growing it, expanding it.
There you go. Then, yeah, you would probably be able to do that. I had a psychotherapist say it was like 30 years of therapy in 3 hours. Just cutting right through the BS.
What do you think about the possibilities of ayahuasca as a treatment for neuromuscular diseases like Parkinson's?
Well, these things have been bandied about a lot. There's been people going down to the jungle using ayahuasca to clear out everything from cancerous tumors, diabetes. And, I think there's some truth to that, a lot, but I think that's the psychosomatic things. There is a point in everyone's life where if you've done too much damage to yourself, you cooked it. Sorry. There's a lot of people who have fried their brains, and their brain is broken. There's, in every group there's at least 3 with broken brains. Sorry, it's true.
Well, we touched peyote, mescaline, mushrooms, ayahuasca, but what's your take on DMT?
I don't like it. DMT, I get it. So, for those of you who don't know what it is, they've been making it a lot. Yeah.
Jump in, so you don't like it in a form other than the brew.
Exactly. Right. I do not like anything that has to be hammered out by a human being. I like coca leaf. That's really cool. I hate cocaine. Right? Opium can be a really good heart opener. Can connect the heart and the mind and remove the hate. But I hate heroin. So, to me, if you're going to use something as a medicine, it's best to take the living object itself and not bastardize it in any way, not manipulate it in any way. Right? So, like ayahuasca, that's a 2-component tea. And DMT is way better, for me anyway, with the vine, drinking it. So it makes it orally active. It's smooth. DMT, I mean, I feel sorry for these kids because you're opening up a can of worms that you don't even know what it is. You know how many times I've seen those kids put that pipe up to their lips? What happened? I don't know. 3 minutes of your head just in a vice. And just, I mean, you're going from 0 to beyond the speed of light like that. It's like that third puff and boom, you are peaking. And it's too intense to make any sense out of. I like it better in the plant because the plant carries the consciousness. There is no helpers in DMT. You might think there are, that's you. Yeah.
But Chris, isn't it accurate to say that for thousands of years before we have archaeological evidence of ayahuasca consumption, that people were doing shamanic snuffs of DMT, right, by grinding the plants up and blowing in some of the nostrils for at least 5,000 years. So they were doing that 15-minute DMT trip you were talking about.
Right.
Way before
Right,
anybody
but they
ever drank ayahuasca and put DMT in the oral form.
Right. But they're not manipulating it. Right? So when you're talking about DMT today,
Yes.
you're talking about taking mimosa bark and laying it in a pan and taking something called hexane and pouring it over it. Right? And as you pour the hexane over it, all those DMT molecules will pop out of the bark. Then you have to purge all that solvent. Good luck.
But that's
You are not going to get the solvents out of it. And when you
consume DMT without using a hydrocarbon to extract it out of the root bark.
right. So they're using, so
There's natural ways to do that.
absolutely.
So those are okay, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's more of organic material, right? I mean, it's again, if you're in the high altitude, you're chewing on coca leaf. It's awesome. You snort a rail of cocaine, and you're just going off the rails. I mean, it's the DMT when it's in that form of smokable DMT, where it's basically been concentrated. Yeah, I guess it slams you so hard, and most people have no idea what they're even getting involved in. So it opens up this world that you don't make sense out of anyway. And ultimately, I don't think it really delivers quite the change Aya does, because it's only 15 minutes. That ayahuasca, that's why they went from those 15 minutes to, hey, this is better.
So your argument is really not at all about the naturality of it, it's the route of administration. It's the 6 hours cruising down the river with the shaman singing to you, pointing out what's on the bank, rather than the 15-minute cannonball ride, the amount of information. Because you can do that cannonball ride completely naturally.
Right.
And they've been doing it indigenously for thousands of years, so it's a historical use to just really you prefer one route of administration over another.
Well, I just, as long as I'll take anything that's from Mother Earth.
All Vilca, Yopo, these all shamanic snuffs are DMT snuffs.
Sure.
You can blow someone and give them the Terrence McKenna 50 milligram experience in a snuff, completely natural and indigenous with the native tradition.
Sure. Yeah, the snuffs, that's different than what people are doing here, though. Here they're smoking this crystallized version of DMT. So that's really what I was speaking to, is when people are talking about smoking DMT.
How is that different, though? Taking the mimosa hostilis bark, concentrating it down as like they did with snuffs, and then vaporizing it.
Well, it's the way you extract it.
You can extract it naturally without any hydrocarbons.
Right, but that's not what's happening in America. What's usually happening here with DMT is it's hexane, it's propane, it's butane, they are extracting it with these therapies. I mean, that's how we make drugs, right? We take gases and we push plants through them, right? And that DMT experience with that particular type of DMT, to me, is extremely uncomfortable, very unpleasant. I don't really learn much from it. It's a 15-minute ride that I'm like, oh my God, whew. And it has, to me, as much sense as riding a roller coaster. But that's me. And I'm and we're all different. Some people smoke DMT and they're like, it does these wonderful things, which is great, that's awesome.
We're almost out of time, just
Okay, yeah, we are. All right.
I have a little bit of experience with maybe untying one of those knots thoughts you were talking about, maybe not through plant medicine. And I just wanted to see if you could talk about maybe, like, I was like, wow, this is really amazing, and I feel kind of brand new, and maybe it's not as fast as the plant medicine, but I would take it to my social circle, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and I would just get so much pushback from a lot of people. It just seems like some people just don't care, or it's like I don't know, it makes you feel like and they're very functional in society.
Right.
You know what I mean, they check off everything, and it's like, I almost feel like if I bring it, they're like, you're gonna kind of mess up my whole life if you keep talking to me, you know what I mean, about your crazy releasing and whatever you're gonna talk about, but, so it kind of makes, have you noticed that, like, once you get into this, sort of like this releasing, you get the life force and the energy and all this stuff, and suddenly there's like people that used to be like in your social circle or your friends, so to speak. Maybe not even, I wouldn't even say friends, but like maybe just in your, your social circle.
You become worried about where you're going?
You feel like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Right, and like for your clients and stuff like that.
See, I kind of liken it like this, and this is probably going to come off really judgmental, but oh well, so be it. When I walk into society, what it feels like to me now is the people having a really weird trip is society. That they're part of a cult. And that cult is you don't have a soul. And your soul doesn't matter. Money matters. Money. Prestige matters. How desirable you are matters. And to me, I'm like, wow, you guys are really crazy. It's like the whole population ate the bad acid and they're all having a really bad trip. So no one's clear anywhere. Right? And what the plant medicines does is brings you back to clarity, and you're like, geez, these people are nuts. And you start calling them out on it, and they freak out on you.
They freak out.
Well, yeah, because they're holding on to that identity they've been building. They've been pouring all that life force and attention into this sense of an identity, not real energetic presence, but into this identity. I am this, I am that, I believe this, I believe that. This is right, that's wrong. This is me. And you start attacking that, and it's really weak because it's only held up by their belief. So the minute you start having them question their own beliefs about their identity, they're coming apart. Yeah, so anyone who associates with their thoughts, that they associate who they are and their identity with what's going through their mind, what happens when the thoughts change? You die. Yeah.
ERCOT is a natural substance, so I just wondered what you thought something like that that's partly natural and partly synthetic.
Yeah, the rye mill. Yeah, see, so with those things, I used to use those a lot, and to me they were about exploring yourself. So it's really about, to me, so like LSD, LSA. That's more about figuring out this ego, this identity that you're running around with. It really questions and challenges that. What it does is it bridges the gap between who you actually are and who you think you are. So who you actually are is talking to who you think you are, and who you think you are has to respond back to a real one. And if there's no integrity in it, they drop it or they go nuts.
So you find it useful?
Sure. I mean, I find everything useful.
Yeah.
Just at what degree, to what degree. I mean, like marijuana's a hard one because you can just smoke your joint and make your problems go away. Your problems haven't gone anywhere. You're just putting them down. So it can be a really hard one to work with because it will. It'll make you feel like you're doing better than you actually are. And that can be a little deceptive. To where I am the stronger one, like, no, you don't get to pretend you're there. I'm going to show you right where you're at. We can deal with that. To where marijuana will be like, oh, you know the problem. Just come over here. It's just hard. It's just hard. It's all love. And then you come down and your life is still in snow. Right? So it doesn't really lend itself. It can. I'm not saying it doesn't, but you got to move through about 400 minions before you get anywhere near the head medicine spirit of cannabis. You gotta go through munchies and paranoia and social anxiety.
Essential oils that are in there.
Yeah.
How do we stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under, we have No Walls Landing. So that's what I want to say in close, and because we got to wrap this up, is we have a center in Colorado we call No Walls Landing. It has moved a couple times. Right now it's in Blackhawk. All right, so what we do there is we do cacao ceremonies, which don't sound very potent, but trust me, they are. So it's basically a traditional style ceremony. We have this giant gong, we have medicine bowls, we got the whole deal. And we try to do our work all donation based, which makes it very hard. Which means I spent an ungodly amount of money helping basically people. So we also allow people to come and stay. So if they've got something they need to do, some work they want to do, if they've got a lot of internal stuff going on and the world's too loud, we're that place you can come and it is solid. That all your work can be done there, you're not shunned, it's not awkward. You're coming in, you're part of the family. You're a human. If you're a human being, then me and you get along. You a human being? Yes, we're all humans. I'm your brother. I'm not the guy that's trying to take your money. Not the guy that's, I am a shaman, and you all need to listen to me. More like a friend. Right? And I have witnesses of this in this room. They come in for just feeling broken. And I'm not the guy going, blah, blah, blah. I'm the one that's there with them in it. Let's go through this. Let's go through this fear. Let's go through why you're letting people manipulate you. Let's go through why you feel like you have to please people. Let's get to the root of where this energetic inconsistency is coming from. Let's get to the root of your unhappiness. And then when we find it, let's yank that insidious weed out of your garden. And here's a seed of love. Let that just grow. Right? So, it's called No Walls Landing. You'll find it on Facebook. If you enjoyed this at all, there's video there too.
All right, thank you.
Colorado, come on up. Just, our phone number is on the site. There's access points.
It's in the comments in the meetup too. It has the link.
And it can give you the.
No walls, landing. Yeah, and that's so we go deeper into that work there.
And if you want more information, you can talk to us afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys, anybody, we had got to leave this room, this building, but I'll hang out for anybody who wants to maybe talk a little bit. Hope you enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah. Thank you.